Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Crypto Live, the best show about crypto that airs every morning at 10 a.m. At least on the weekdays it is. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. My name is Tim, and we got a great show lined up for you today. But, of course, yesterday we had that Bitcoin crash in the middle of the afternoon when we don't shoot content anymore. We were done shooting content for the day, and we had to move on. So that was... I wish I could have talked to you guys yesterday, but we're going to cover all of that and more. Today we will be discussing, and I have some things that I think about this. TShroom has some as well. Why we don't actually think Bitcoin crash is over. There is a little further down to go, but also what is the future of Bitcoin overall? Because I think a lot of people are almost expecting, with some negativity coming into the space, that we're going to see some straight red lines all the way down to 10,000. That's not how this is going to work. I do think there's still a good chance that we do go to lower numbers within the teens. I'm not yet committed to 10,000, but I also don't think it will go directly. I still think there's a lot of volatility left in the space, and we'll be discussing all that and more. We are joined today by one of your guys' favorite guests that we bring on. His name is Caleb Franzen, and I'm super excited to get him on it's going to be around 10:20, so stay tight. He's not coming on as yet. We're doing the show as normal with our market polls. Then we'll bring him on, and we'll have discussion afterwards and engage with chat. So make sure you stick around for the entire show. It is going to be awesome. But before we dive into all that content, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my team that works with me here every single day. You guys know them. You guys love them. I got TShroom over here to my right. And today, the color of your shirt is teal.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not colorblind. The lighting was off yesterday.
Yeah.
I went back and watched it. It was purple.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was blue. It was a bad moment.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm also joined by Smay the Turtle King, once again sitting today, even though you probably can't tell from his camera angle.
I am sitting.
Smay, you were so excited when we moved to this set about these standing desks, and after about 2 weeks, have you
know
given
what,
up?
Tim?
Why are you yelling?
It's very loud.
If something unplugs and this stream ends...
It's not. There it is.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
On cue.
There it is.
That's
There
a lot
we go.
of fun.
We're good. Hey!
We're really elevating the
By
conversation.
the way, guys, I'm never going to do that again. Just so you know. I got really nervous when I did it.
That was,
I'm never going to do that again.
His camera definitely looked like he was about to...
I'm never doing that again. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and make like a YouTuber apology. I shouldn't have done that.
He's getting his early apology out there. That's funny.
I know Tim's going to talk about it after the show.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, nothing bad happened, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. It's going to be, once again, a good show. If you guys are just jumping in, thank you so much for joining. Let's go ahead and smash that like button. We already almost have 300 people watching, but we only have a little under 70 likes. Let's go ahead and get that like button up. If you're new here, welcome to the Coffee and Crypto team, where we are here with you every single day on time at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. If that is something you appreciate, like and subscribe to the channel. That being said, though, I'm about to throw it over to TShroom. But first, before we get there, Smay, I have no idea who the Market Pulse is brought to us by today.
Oh, gee, why do you not know?
Well, because I don't think the doc's updated.
It did. I just did.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us who the Market Pulse is brought to us by today?
I'll tell you who the Market Pulse is brought to you by today. The Market Pulse today is brought to you by Hedge.
Hedge. Well, thank you so much for the update there, Smay. And I forgot, we got to go to green names here in just a second. So I'm going to say this, and then we're going to throw it over to Smay first, and then TShroom. But Hedge, in case you guys don't know, most of you guys know what Hedge is. Phenomenal company that helps you get paid in crypto. That's right. You don't have to wait for your company to adopt crypto. You can be paid an automatic withdrawal right now using Hedge linked to your pay structure. It's just another way to save yourself exchange fees and DCA at these low prices. And today of all days is a great day to start doing that if you have not already. These are very advantageous prices on cryptos. You don't want to miss out. If you sign up with our link down below, you get $10 of free Bitcoin as well. So free Bitcoin, get paid in crypto. It's a great deal. Sign up down below. So before I throw it to TShroom for the Market Pulse, Smay, go ahead and let's do that green name reading and hear about all of our fans and our members that support us each and every day.
Well, gee, Tim, I would love to do that. All right, so here's what we have in terms of green names. As far as green names goes, this is what we have. Elliot Locke, Justin Eubanks, Mitch Shaw, Elliot Locke, GS, Elliot Locke, Mitch Shaw, GS, Mitch Shaw, Justin Eubanks, GS, Elliot Locke, Justin Eubanks, Elliot Locke, GS, Mitch Shaw, GS, Elliot Locke, Silent, Justin Eubanks, GS, Elliot Locke, GS, Mitch Shaw, Silent, Elliot Locke, Mitch Shaw, Elliot Locke, Gia S, Agent Gold, Gia S,
Wow, this is intense.
Elliot Locke, Greg Jenkins, Alien, Gia S, Mike Lowry, Justin Eubanks, Elliot Locke, Agent Gold, Mitch Shaw, Mike Lowry, Kevin Grims, Justin Eubanks, Kevin Grims, Greg Jenkins, Gia S, Justin Eubanks, Elliot Locke, Crypto Mini Bike, Gia S, Greg Jenkins, Kevin Grims, Elliot Locke, Mike Lowry, Kevin Grims, Cyberfix Online, Alien, Grand Roofing Incorporated, Elliot Locke, Cyberfix Online. All right, I'm done.
Okay.
Shout out to all you guys, green names. I love all you guys. I was basically doing like a transcript.
I don't know if you got him, but a mellow fellow and
mellow
Ryan
fellow,
McEachern as well.
Ryan McEachern.
Pretty
Love all
much
you guys.
this
Go CJC.
This green names reading was brought to you by GS and Elliot Locke. I feel like I heard their names.
Well, because I was just like reading it like
times.
like a transcript, and it was just too much. They keep going back and forth. Here's what I need. You know what? This is what I'm going to call upon you guys as green names. You need to start chatting as soon as you get in the stream. Chat. So it's not just people going back and forth. I can actually read a bunch of names because I want to read all your names because I love all of you guys. I want to see your names in the chat. So chat as soon as you get in the stream, baby.
It's a good morning. Again, thank you to all of those green names and blue names out there, our moderators. You are what make this channel the greatest in all of crypto, YouTube, and the rest of the crypto world. With that being said, though, I am going to throw it to TShroom for our market pulse.
If you are listening to the hopefully louder sound of my voice, that means only one thing, that you are in the market pulse, baby. Let's do it. All right, we're going to start over on the Fear and Greed Index. May, if you're on my screen, then that's fantastic. The Fear and Greed Index is clocking in at 24, folks, so it's slightly higher than yesterday, so a little bit less fear. Kind of not what you would expect, am I right? As we had a big dump in Bitcoin yesterday, so potentially the Fear and Greed Index here is a little bit lagging, so we shall see. Or maybe there's some other indicators within it that are kind of countering off that fear and greed. But so moving right along, the CME futures predicting tool has now moved into the 80 territory very firmly. It's at 85%, 75 basis points, and that is pretty strong, folks. That's close to certainty. That's the strongest I've seen it, and that's not waning. If you don't know what this is what the federal funds rate is set by the Federal Reserve of the United States, and they set the cost of borrowing money. And every month they come out with a new decision on what the rate is going to be for the cost of borrowing. And historically, they have been raising those rates at a very aggressive pace. And it looks like they're set to raise those rates once again by 75 basis points. And that's going to be pretty intense. So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. 75 is what they have been raising it by in this year. So just so you know, it's not by any more than what they have already been doing this year. All right, so moving on forward, we've got some breaking news from Binance. Binance US has adopted support for Ethereum staking. So they provide support for mini coins to stake, but now they have added Ethereum, which is pretty big, and it makes sense because the merge is upon us, and that's what staking's all about, proof of stake. So making it happen over there at Binance US, that's something I might actually be looking into myself. I've got a lot of Ethereum on Robinhood that I can change over there, that I can send over there and start staking it, baby. All right, moving into our stories here. The play to earn craze may be over with a new coalition of gameplay first communities, and this is a story I actually want to get Smay's input on because it's been right in line with his thinking. All right, the inability to retain value in both token prices and in-game NFTs has caused an exodus of players from the top play-to-earn games. The below chart shows the rise and fall of Axie Infinity's daily player base, which peaked at the start of 2022. And if you take a look at this graph, folks, just take a look at it. You can see that going up on the screen is going forward in time. You can see play-to-earn games just chugging along. Boom, 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 boom. Growth, nothing but positivity. Boom. Peaks out January 30th of 2022 this year and starts just a precipitous decline. And in May 30, things look really dark where it just kind of crumbles. And it has sustained as of right now. But ultimately, there may be a new sheriff in the play to earn world, and that is Polkastar. Polkastar Gaming has focused on delivering a new source of relevant games and apps within the Web3 gaming world. Polkastar Gaming Guide has received over 5,000 scholarship program applications since its launch in December 2021. And the Polkastar Gaming website proclaims that gaming has never been about microtransactions or tokenomics. And Smay, listen to this. It's about unforgettable moments and endless fun.
Boom. That literally what I was about to say when you threw it to me. So I'm excited that that's what the article said.
So Smay, what do you think about this?
Well, gee, TShroom, that's literally exactly what I was thinking. I was going to deliver the hottest of hot takes of that. I don't think there's much of a future of play to earn games.
Yeah.
I think that will be a minor component to the future of games. But the fact of the matter is, people aren't actually that enticed about. Now, you would think this goes against everything everybody ever thought about, is that people are into the fact of making money. That's true. In gaming, I actually would say that's not as true. People want to go to gaming to escape their reality, right? So why would you go to play a game that's basically a job? It's not that fun, but you're getting coins from it. Nobody wants to do that. So that's why the priority on these game developers needs to be to make a game that sucks you in and that has a reason to give you endless moments of fun and memories, and then have tokenomics be on the back end of that. But it seems like right now their whole thing is like, guys, play to earn, and that's not gonna get people to want to play, especially when the coin's not doing well. In a bear market, when the coin's not doing well, people aren't trading the coin. There's no reason to really play to earn because it's not that fun of a game. So that article summed up my thoughts exactly.
Good deal. Well, I knew Smay would have something interesting to say about that, and so I was right yet again. All right. So a bank in Singapore with I'm going to go ahead and call it $500 billion. So it's actually 489 billion, but I'm going to call it 500 in assets. Explains how crypto can reach the mainstream public. So let's take a look at this. The largest bank in Singapore is backing cryptocurrency and blockchain tech despite the regulatory uncertainty and market downturn. According to a report from the Financial Times, a reliable source, DBS CEO Piyush Gupta says the recent crypto slump shows the need for regulated financial institutions to offer digital asset products. So kind of thinking on the same level as BlackRock. You might as well, this is Gupta saying, you might as well try and create frameworks and processes to make these sensibly available to everybody instead of having a regulated space and a cowboy space and let everybody go to the cowboy space. Is a little bit of an awkward analogy, but I see where he's coming from. And basically what he's saying is create regulatory clarity so that banks and institutions can get in and provide stability, and there won't be so much of a Wild West feel to crypto. So he's kind of hearkening in. He wants to see a change, and he doesn't want the world of crypto to be the Wild West anymore. He wants us to mature away from that, and I don't know. I couldn't agree more. And look, it's not a small amount of money that he manages, or his bank manages. $500 billion. You know, these are big words. Definitely not quite the 10 trill market cap over at BlackRock, but this is the biggest bank in Singapore. So, you know, this is a bank that's doing really, really well, and they're trying to bring crypto mainstream. Again, just a kind of a silver lining in these tough times, especially for noobs out there, you know, trying to bring you some optimistic headlines. And here we go with a not so optimistic headline. Top Bitcoin mining pool freezes withdrawals due to liquidity issues. Folks, this is a little bit of a scarier article here, but it's important for you to know. Poolin, a Beijing-based Bitcoin mining pool that's responsible for 10% of the overall Bitcoin network hash rate, announced a freeze on users' withdrawals on Monday. And this article starts with, first were the lending platforms, then the exchanges. Could mining pools be next to go insolvent? I'm not asking that question, but this article is. I don't know. So Poolin said it was facing some liquidity issues during rising demand for withdrawals and announced a number of measures in order to stabilize its operations. These included pausing withdrawals from its pool account and temporarily suspending its BTC and ETH balance payouts. So the daily mined coins after September 6th will be normally paid out per day. Pool operator later clarified, adding that coins besides the top 2 cryptocurrencies were not affected. So folks, if you're probably not in the mining community, but if you are and you're in that pool, this is definitely affecting you, and you're just as upset as people who were in Celsius, people who were in Voyager. But right now, it's good just for the average trader, the average investor, to know that there's some serious kind of structural issues going on with the mining pools. So definitely something to keep your focus and attention on. We certainly will be, and we'll be reporting as that story develops. But moving on, DeFi platform Curve Finance takes first steps towards Curve USD stablecoin. And I wasn't going to go into this too much, but depositors on Curve can earn annual yields of up to 4% from one of many pools on the platform, which locks over 5 billion worth of Ethereum-based tokens on its platform. So didn't want to get into this one too deeply, but very, very interesting here. And Smay is distracting me. But that's okay, because he's awesome.
I was just trying to get Tim's attention. Keep doing your thing.
Many other ways. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our market pulse there. Got some question of the day, but I do want to get Tim's take.
Yeah, I mean, before we wrap out that market pulse, I do think it's interesting. We're going to keep our eyes on what's happening here. This is going to lead into the conversation we're going to have with Caleb, and we're going to talk about later on the show. But the biggest thing that I want to make sure people go back to is that first thing you talked about during market pulse, and that is the fear and greed index going up today despite the price dropping. This is something we've talked about for a while now. It is trading and looking at the sentiment in the market. There are very profitable traders who do nothing but trade sentiment. They don't even really look at TA and charts. They just watch sentiment. And just, one of the biggest things that TShroom talked about there, that is another reason why I do believe we have a little bit farther to go with Bitcoin, is the fact that I think people are almost acting like, oh, that little crash we had, that was the real pain. We've already set the bottom at 17.5. We're good now. And it's like, no, we're going to be surprised. So keep your eyes on what's happening with that fear and greed index. Don't let that fool you into thinking, oh, well, that means the bottom's in. No, it's just the opposite. When people don't get afraid of things like this, it means it wasn't severe enough. With that being said, though, TShroom, take it back, and we'll go into question of the day. I think Caleb is here, so we're bringing him in, but we're going to start off with that question of the day, and then we will jump into our topic of conversation with Caleb.
Yeah, and I'd say Caleb can go ahead and interact with us. It seems like the guests have been very interested in the questions of the day that we've had to ask. So we can introduce him into the discussion portion. But he's Caleb, if you're listening, you're free to comment on this as well. The question of the day, folks, is and Smay, do not go to my screen.
Well, can we say hi to Caleb real quick?
No, we're not allowed to say hi to Caleb.
We're not allowed to say hi to Caleb real quick because you kind of just like brushed. He's not even been on screen yet. You guys just
show him real quick.
But I have something to say to Caleb real quick.
What's up, guys?
Caleb, I need to say something to you. I just find it really clever, and I love the fact that your newsletter is called Cubic Analytics, and you do it from within inside a cube. That is the best thing I've ever seen.
Background. I need to spruce it up a little bit. It looks
no,
like
I think it actually works. You're in a cube. You're in a cube. It works. But TShroom, go ahead, take away with the question of the day.
All right. We have the eagerly awaited question of the day. Would you rather be dumb but have a regenerative body, or be hyper intelligent but have a brittle, non-regenerative body? So this is a tough one, and I want to throw it over to Tim first today to get his take.
I would say this is a hard one because I feel like I by no means am the smartest person in the world, and I get injured pretty easily. So I'm on the losing end of both sides of the question. But if I had to choose one, as much as it would be nice to be super intelligent, I like quality of life. I really like.
Looks like
can you not hear me?
Looks like OBS froze.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Quick problem solving.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. Can they still hear me, though?
Yeah, they should still be able to hear
All right, well, I'll keep answering the question while Smay fixes the visual.
There you go. You're back.
I definitely would prefer to be able to live a quality life physically, and so that means being dumb, but being able to recover from any injury easily, and that's what I would choose. Pretty easy for me, but it would suck to have no intelligence. But maybe that's how some people perceive me at the moment. So, it is what it is. So maybe what about you?
Definitely would rather be brittle and be very smart.
Okay.
That's what I'd rather be. Because I'd just be like in a wheelchair all the time and be really smart. So.
I think I would be dumb and regenerative, because just because you're dumb doesn't mean you can't succeed. There's a lot of dumb people who are very successful.
Yikes.
And that's the way that...
That could be taken many directions.
Really?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't
Easily.
offend anybody with
Oh,
that.
I don't think anyone.
me.
I don't think anyone in the room is necessarily offended, but anyone else who is listening could.
I mean, it's one of the options, so I hope that one of the options for our question of the day isn't offensive to people. But I would want to be dumb but regenerative, because regeneration kind of implies immortality, and maybe not full immortality, but if you could just heal yourself and never be in any pain and never, be in any kind of real hardship from a physical standpoint, then I think that would set you up for success for being able to leverage what little intelligence you have to be able to make something of yourself. But Caleb, let's get your take.
So I think at first I was leaning towards being smart and brittle, but now that I think about it, I might rather be dumb and regenerative, because then you could be like a stuntman or a magician and be like the most like world famous, person in a way, and you could probably monetize that like crazy and end up, having a really great life. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you question what dumb and intelligence really is. I mean, because if you're dumb, it's like, do you even have the wherewithal to think about yourself as a marketable entity? Like,
That's a good point, man.
maybe just need maybe all dumb people are just one agent away from success. They just need somebody helping them think.
Or exploitation.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the sad part.
This is probably one of the more diverse questions we've had in terms of answers from chat, because I'm seeing a good split. Some people saying they'd rather be dumb but pretty much invincible. Some people saying they'd rather be brittle. It really depends on your job, what you like to do in your free time. I would say probably differs.
I'm definitely flip-flopping. Because there was a part of me that was like, wouldn't it be nice to just live like a hobbit that doesn't know anything, is super ignorant, but just like doing his thing. But like I'm invincible.
It all comes back to Lord of the Rings.
Well, hold on, but just like making your life so much more simple. Is it? I feel like it's like a burden to know things sometimes.
It's true. Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. I saw that in the comments.
Well, let's go ahead and transition here. Before I jump in with you, Caleb, by the way, so happy to have you here. You are one of our absolute favorites. Today's TA and discussion is brought to you by Unstoppable Domains. Some of you guys know about them. Some of you guys have them. But if you do not, you're going to want to go ahead and get it done right now. Similar to when the internet first came out and you could get URLs, you want to go ahead and buy those domains for long term. You can even sell them for profit later. But you definitely don't want someone else getting your domain. If you are somebody who thinks that crypto is the future and you want to utilize it long term and simplify how you get paid and can pay people down the road, you're going to need your own domain. And you can't do that without a project like Unstoppable Domains. There's a link in the description down below. Go sign up today if you want one of those. With that being said, though, Caleb, thank you so much for joining us today. I got a lot of questions for you, but we're going to try to keep this as simple as possible. Obviously, yesterday, Bitcoin's price dropped below 19,000. And the question on everybody's brain is, can we see recovery, or is that drop not over yet? I want to just go ahead and throw it to you kind of open-ended right there and get your initial take on the market.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on again, guys. I'm still a little under the weather, so I might cough a little bit here and there, but made a good recovery overall. I think with Bitcoin specifically, and thinking about where we're going to go next, I think with markets in general, the best thing that we can do is recognize that the trend is our friend. And if we look at what the trend has been basically for the past 9 months, it's that we go through a consolidation period, we have a new downward extension, we go through another consolidation period, and then another breakdown. And so each of these kinds of bear flags or channels, whatever we want to call them, qualitatively, we can just assess that we go through these breakdowns, consolidations, and then a new downward extension. And so when, I've been looking at some of the shorter term price action, looking at 1 hour candles like this. And, we were really kind of consolidating in this sideways channel with basically like 19.5, 19.6 thousand as being the floor. That got shattered a couple of days ago. And then we just had this massive flush, like you said, back down beneath 19,000. And so I actually reduced one of my limit orders from 18.8 thousand to 18.5. It hasn't gotten filled yet, but I expect it to. I'm not going to cancel it or change it at this point. And so from my perspective, it's possible we're now starting another one of these low time frame consolidation periods as price kind of gets resettled here at this like high 18,000, low 19,000 range, and then we'll kind of see where things shake out. But in my opinion, like I said, the trend is our friend, and I think at the very least we need to be continuing to exercise patience, prudence, and risk management.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the question that we have, because I think you're exactly right. When we're looking at the charts, especially smaller time frames, and what I mean by smaller time frames, in case anyone's wondering, I'm talking about the hourly chart and down. There were signs on the RSI and other things. It got a little overextended to the downside, needed a little bit of cooling off period. But on those higher time frames, starting maybe at the 4-hourly chart and up, it isn't yet to the place where it's overextended to the downside. And even more so, go to my screen real quick, Smay. I'm going to show this.
I unfortunately...
It cannot. So did it get completely unplugged?
No. I checked. It's not plugged in.
So I just replugged. Did we get anything different?
Oh! Whoa!
I know it's really ugly,
but
but
there it is.
There we go. We back there? All right. So go to my screen real quick. This is the hourly chart. So this is what I was looking at this morning. When I woke up, I was looking at this chart and saying, all right, we're below the 30 on the RSI. As we've been talking here a little bit, we are starting to rally up in price. Not a whole lot, but back towards that 19,000. We're sitting currently at 18,800. But look how the RSI is climbing way faster than price. Even these lower charts that were starting to get overextended to the downside, they're setting themselves up for bearish divergences and some momentum to retool the bears who are shorting the market. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Caleb. Is there things you're seeing on the charts, or maybe from a sentiment or news perspective, that you're seeing that this fall is over, or are you expecting further dip to the downside after we maybe have a little bit of a relief?
Let me just add to the RSI analysis that you did there, because I think that's actually really great. And the thing that I see when I don't typically use RSI indicators in my analysis, so it's kind of out of my wheelhouse. But for me, as somewhat of a observer from the outside looking at RSI dynamics, I don't want to see the RSI accelerate super fast beyond what the price action is doing, because to me that essentially indicates that we get to somewhat of a high momentum stage before price does. And what that means is, as soon as that RSI starts to roll over, it gives us significantly more downside for price action to follow. Because again, we have to remember, like I said at the beginning, trend is our friend and the trend is to the downside. And it's kind of, we don't want to think that the Bitcoin trend is our friend when it's falling, right? That's not how we want to be able to think about things. But when we just think about technicals and momentum and the direction of a market, the trend is our friend. And so in that case, I don't necessarily look at that RSI dynamic as necessarily being bullish. I think for me, the thing that's allowed me to stay very kind of just like mentally calm and maybe like stoic, you could say, in this market is just that, I've really tried to take a zoomed out approach. And, Tim, we've talked several times about this Williams %R oscillator that I look at using monthly candles and 12, 18, or 24-month timeframes. And on each of those slots, I'm still seeing that we're in an accumulation zone. We haven't left that accumulation zone. And so whatever price does, whether we're going to new year-to-date lows or whether or not the lows are in, I still just generally view the market overall right now as being oversold. And I'm using this opportunity across the stock market and across the Bitcoin market to buy long-term conviction assets that I want to hold.
Well, okay, so, and that's a really good point, and I love that. That's what you're kind of watching at. And you're kind of saying like there's some things that could go either direction, either bullish or bearish. I want to get your take on a couple of things, because you mentioned the stock market right there. Let's talk about NASDAQ. Let's talk about the S&P 500. Let's talk about the Dixie that is continuing to climb. It climbed above 110 here a couple days ago, peaked out, came back down. Now it's back over there, and it's working its way up to where, go to my screen really fast here, Smay. I've talked about this before. We have a bull flag, which you don't want to have a bull flag on the Dixie, that is predicting all the way up to 112, and then the resistance level of kind of a megaphone pattern we've been in now for a while on the Dixie is saying we could climb all the way up to 113, possibly 114. What do you think about those charts as well? Do you think that those are kind of indicators pointing at, and you off my screen now, Smay, are those indicators pointing at a further dip to the downside with Bitcoin? Or can Bitcoin go away from those with the inverse correlation to the Dixie, the correlation to the stock market? Do you think that Bitcoin can survive at this place, or are those all pieces of evidence to add to the flames that the bears have full control over Bitcoin right now?
Yep. So in a macro dominated environment where basically the entire narrative and the entire market dynamic has been controlled by two things: inflation and the Federal Reserve. So because the market is being driven by these two macro dominated factors, I expect to see correlations remain extremely tight. So as you mentioned, we would expect to see an inverse correlation between the dollar and risk assets. That's exactly what we've seen all year. Same thing with yields and risk assets. And so when we think about Bitcoin being correlated to the stock market or individual securities, that's what we expect to see in this environment. And I don't expect that to change, because I expect to see inflation and the Federal Reserve control the market narrative to both the upside and the downside. So from my perspective, I expect that dynamic to continue to play out. When we think about the dollar, I think it's pretty safe to say right now that we are overextended. I mean, it basically gets that simple. The thing is, it's been overextended for a very long time, and it can continue to stay overextended, right? So just because something is overextended today doesn't mean it's going to fall tomorrow. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see a cool down period. Maybe we fall back to the 107, 108 range, and then continue again on another leg higher. That's been the dynamic all year, and especially since October of 2021, where we've just continued to produce higher highs and higher lows, regardless of where those lows and highs end up shaking out. That's been the play: higher highs and higher lows. The only bull market that we see across the environment today is in the dollar and in yields. So don't fight that market. Like we said earlier, the trend is our friend. And in my opinion, I've been saying this all year and since October of last year, is that yields and the dollar have tailwinds to rise in a rising rate environment. So as the Fed continues to kind of increase their aggressive tone, even if they dial back that aggressive tone, but they continue to embark on a rising rate monetary policy regime, yields in the dollar have tailwinds to rise, meaning that the likely case is that they'll continue to move higher.
Yeah, and as you're kind of saying there, all these things, as they continue to develop, everything that we can utilize from the past is that Bitcoin will continue to move inversely from that dollar, from those yields, and should move to the downside. Is there any scenario you see, Caleb, where we could see a change in that, where we see actually Bitcoin begin to bottom out? And if so, what do you think those price levels would be that potentially it could break from that inverse correlation to the dollar and yields and actually begin to recuperate some of this? Because that's what a lot of Bitcoin holders are wondering. Should I be getting out of Bitcoin and waiting for a lower price, or should I be holding on? What could be coming that could convince me to stay, to continue to hold on and not sell and look for a lower price?
Well, for the idea of liquidating someone's Bitcoin position now in order to buy back in at a lower price, I'm not necessarily a proponent of that. And if I was going to be a proponent of that, I would probably tell somebody to only liquidate maybe 25 to 33% of their Bitcoin position. Don't liquidate all of it. And the reason why is because it goes back to that timeless saying that time in the market beats timing the market. We don't know what we don't know. It's very possible that the lows are still in. We don't know whether or not that's actually going to be the case. I think, Tim, you and I have talked about how I wouldn't be surprised to see price fall under 14,000. I think still to this day, I kind of have my target range there between that $12,000 to $14,000 range. So for me, I'd love to see if we get price down to that area. I do have a large amount of cash available ready to allocate, and I've been just kind of patiently dollar cost averaging. Most of my purchases have been around 0.5% of available capital. So these are very small dollar cost average purchases, right? They're almost insignificant relative to the amount of cash that I do have just kind of on the sidelines. But with that being said, let me say it this way. I think I still view more downside in the market. So again, I think this is where it really gets down to risk management. But the thing, I did a tweet about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said, risk management is only sexy until it's too late. And so when I was telling people to de-risk their portfolios in July or even in early August, like those tweets got almost no engagement, right? Like no one was paying attention to that narrative because everyone was feeling so good and ecstatic about price action, about market trends, about momentum, this, that, and the other. And it was just up only, right? We're seeing all these memes about Saudis going crazy, like this, that, and the other, right? But still, like the macro environment didn't necessarily change. Things got slightly less worse, but generally speaking, I didn't see any reason for a speculative market environment. And so now here we are today, back, basically 12% away from the year-to-date lows, 10% away from the year-to-date lows, whatever we're at. And now people want to emphasize risk management. The time to exercise risk management is already behind us until we get another phase where it would be attractive to exercise risk management. So right now, I don't think now is the time to be making brash decisions. And again, just recognize, zoom out, think about the long term here. And if someone has income, if someone's generating income from their job, from their business, whatever the case is, from other investments that they've made, you have dry powder and ammo that's available to allocate into the market. So I think patiently taking advantage of that is the way to go.
Good stuff, man. I'm going to continue this. I want to go to my screen here real quick, and I'm going to do some TA here. Caleb, I want you to watch it, and I want to get your take on what's happening here. This is a good piece of information for anyone who's out there. This is something I've been calling now for a long time, and that is strong bullish RSI divergence on the daily chart. And even though I still think, and I'm going to explain this in a second, why I think the price is going to go down further, the good news of the day is that we did close a daily chart, or daily candle lower than the previous low right here on the 18th of June. Of course, in the same timeline, the RSI has increased. We had that bottom over there around 1920, and of course, our RSI matching point is a lot higher. This is strong bullish RSI divergence. The other good news is that I talked about this as well. It's not just strong bullish RSI divergence, because technically speaking, we had strong bullish RSI divergence between this point back here in January and this dip right here we had in May. The only difference is, look at that fat amount of volume that came into the space. I talked about not only do we need bullish RSI divergence, we need low volume. Well, we are seeing low volume on the USD right now. So that's the second thing I'm looking at and saying, hey, I think we're still going to go a little lower. I'll tell you guys a little bit later as to why, especially when you look at the Dixie and other things. What I thought was interesting, and give me just a second because I got to type it in. It's not one that I just keep up. I want to get your take on this one, Caleb. When I looked at Bitcoin over USDT, it is a completely different situation when we're looking at volume than when we're looking at the Bitcoin over USD. Look at the amount of volume that is upticked. This is on Binance, that has flowed from Bitcoin into USD Tether. And of course, when we're coming down here, you guys saw almost no volume whatsoever going to USD. But we are seeing a lot of volume and money come into Tether. What does this mean, in your opinion, Caleb, about the future outlook of Bitcoin's price? There's a couple options here that I'm questioning why we're going so much into Tether rather than just going to USD. The first one that people do this is to take profit at high levels, which this isn't high level, but it's what you do. You take profit, you look for a lower level to buy in. Is that what holders are doing? Or B, with the excitement we're seeing happening with the Ethereum merge coming out and with Cardano Vassal hard fork launching here in 2 weeks, could this potentially be investors moving their assets to Tether to wait for a golden opportunity on other projects? And we could see a lot of power and momentum flow from Bitcoin into these other altcoins, namely Ethereum and Cardano.
I think that's great analysis, Tim. And the only thing that I would add is this isn't investors, securing profits at a high price. This is them capitulating. So, when I see that volume kind of tick up on these downside candles, I saw a lot of that higher volume on red candles is what it looked like, at least. To me, that's a sign of capitulation. And whether or not those investors, I think you bring up a fair point that because they're moving into Tether, it's likely to be the case that they're looking to redeploy. They're not leaving the crypto market. They're not leaving the Bitcoin market. They're saying, hey, we'll be back when things cool off and that when things make a little bit more sense, right? And to me, that makes sense. And whether or not, they're going to shift into other crypto assets, I think is, I think people are still trading this environment. So, we had that upside briefly there that peaked in like early mid-August. And, we're going to get another big swing, right? The one of the key components of a bear market is that we have these significant and I guess you could call them violent upside market rallies. So eventually we'll get another one. Everyone's going to think the new bull market is starting. But until the macro changes, I'm still, staying defensive.
That sounds like a great take. We had Frankie on the other day, and he was talking about that cautious pessimism, meaning he's not necessarily committed yet to it has to go down, but he's very, very pessimist about where we're going. Before we kind of transition, because I want to get your take on what you think could be happening in this market when it comes to Ethereum and the merge that's about to launch here next week. Were there any charts that you do think that our viewers would benefit from seeing that you've been looking at, or do you think you kind of wrapped up all your points in this talk?
Yeah, there's a couple, Tim, and thanks for giving me kind of the whiteboard, so to speak. I'd love to share this one Bitcoin chart that I'm looking at right now. Let's see here. Share should be up. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what we're looking at right here is Bitcoin with daily candles, basically going back to December of 2021. And the key thing that I'm looking at here, and I was highlighting this back when we were up in this range, is that in each of these kind of, we have some key characteristics here. Notably, we have this rising trend line that breaks. You could call this a bear flag if you want. And what happens is, do you guys see this like toolbar right here, or is that just on my screen?
Okay,
I think we're good. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Anyway, so when we break this green descending trend line, we pretty much fall into this capitulation wick from the initial down leg that started this new consolidation zone. So we see the same kind of dynamic happen back here. We have this rising trend line that gets broken. You could, argue that the capitulation zone is down here, or perhaps it's even lower. But either way, price comes into that target range. Same thing is happening right now. We broke that green support trend line, and now we've fallen and we've hit kind of our target range. The thing is, in each of these prior markets, in each of these prior occasions, if you will, what's happened is we also end up breaking below this prior capitulation wick. And so for me, like I said earlier, the trend is our friend. Again, this sets us up for more of a downside extension, which gets us back to looking at more of kind of the long-term price structure, where if we pull up like weekly candles or something like this, where, we could return back to those 2019 highs, which gets us back into this pocket range right here. And again, that gets us right to that 11.5 to 13.7 thousand range, which is really structurally why I have that kind of key support level there. So for me, when I'm looking at Bitcoin right now in this environment, again, trend is our friend. We continue to break down, have a new consolidation zone, and then another breakdown extension. So as of right now, I see no reason to fight that trend. And simply, we have to accept that there's more downside. At least that more downside is the likely case scenario. And so this isn't like doom and gloom or anything like that. Again, my long-term conviction in Bitcoin is still rock solid, and I'm viewing this as a market opportunity. If we get down into this pocket range here, to me, that's a green light to take some of that risk, because I do view risk premium in that area is going to be very favorable for long-term investors.
I think that what you just said right there is a very good point. That I think I saw you tweet about this yesterday or maybe this morning. I can't remember which. But Charles Hoskinson talked about this as well on his Twitter feed the other day. But a lot of people orient, they look at price action, and they just assume because price moves up or down, that makes whatever the asset is really, really good or really, really bad. And that doesn't always tell the full picture. Charles said, like, for example, Cardano, and he was even talking about other altcoins, he said these are some of they're the strongest they've ever been. Just because price is down from all-time high does not mean that the value is different. I think your tweet had to do with the difference between price and value, and they aren't always correlated. Can you go and dive into that a little bit more to reassure? Because I think there's a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people watching crypto YouTube right now, but there are people out there that hold Bitcoin who might be freaking out right now and wondering, oh my gosh, is Bitcoin dying actually? Is this the end? Do I need to get out now and run for the hills because crypto was a failed experiment?
Well, first of all, Bitcoin certainly isn't dying. So I think the quote that you're referring to is something that my college professor used to tell me. His name was Professor Naylor. And I still keep in contact with him to this day. We built a really strong relationship. I took like 6 courses from him, and he was just my absolute favorite. He's been a mentor for me over the years. And one of the things that he used to say, and I certainly don't think this was, his quote or anything, but I heard it first from him, and he continued to reiterate it over the years, is that price is what you pay, value is what you get. And so and I think he used to talk about that in multiple contexts, right? You can talk about that from an economic perspective, from a microeconomic perspective, or you can also talk about that from an investment perspective. So when we think about Warren Buffett being a value investor, he's buying things that he views are extremely cheap relative to the value that he's getting from owning the asset, whether that's because of the dividend payments or the share repurchase or the future cash flows or a combination of all of the above. Maybe, the stock is extremely undervalued relative to the price to book value, right? We don't know exactly what he's seeing. But one way or the other, Warren Buffett is acting as a value investor, believing that the price that he is paying is significantly lower than the value that he's getting from owning the asset. And over time, he's not speculating. I hate to use that word tied to Warren Buffett, but he's essentially speculating that eventually the market is going to come around and recognize that price and value were dislocated and course correct that dislocation, right? So price should catch up to value. And so over time, that's been an extremely successful strategy for Warren Buffett. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. Same thing can be said from a microeconomic kind of transaction perspective. When I go to the store and I buy a 6-pack of beer for $10, I think that the value of that 6-pack of beer is worth more than $10. Therefore, I'm willing to pay $10 for it because the value that I'm getting is greater than the value of holding that $10, right? So again, this kind of concept of prices is what you pay, value is what you get is so fundamental that we almost don't even really recognize that it's happening to us on a day-to-day basis. But again, so the same thing, like I said, can be applied to asset markets. And when we look across the board right now, I'm doing a series right now on Substack where I'm looking at and analyzing the 15 companies that, I've really been dollar cost averaging into and will continue to buy in portfolios that I manage and consult for. And, I already analyzed all these companies before, but now I'm really just kind of getting everything into writing. And, across the board, I'm still seeing a lot of strength in these underlying companies. And I'll just, I'll mention one here for you guys because it's such a popular name. It's not like I'm giving away much alpha, but it's just Google, right? And when we look at Google, revenue last quarter was up 12% on a year-over-year basis, despite being in a downtrending market. All of these factors are still so favorable for Google's long-term conviction. In my opinion, their long-term investment thesis is rock solid. But somehow the price of the stock is down 29% from the all-time highs. So you're telling me that the second or third largest company in the world has lost 30% of its market cap, but there hasn't really been any fundamental shift in the business outlook, in the performance, in terms of the management. Everything is rock solid. So again, price is what you pay, value is what you get. I see a massive dislocation here with Google saying, hey, what the hell? It's 30% on discount. I'm going to go shopping regardless of whether or not it trades at a lower discount in the future.
Yeah. That is really, really good, Caleb. We're going to go ahead and let you go here in a second, but I thank you so much for coming on today. And by the way, next week's going to be fun. I think those numbers, the CPI numbers come out. I will not be here next Wednesday when you come back on the show, so it's going to be you and TShroom. Yeah. But cool. We look forward to having you again next week.
Yeah, definitely tune in for a nice little macroeconomic environment conversation.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be talking about oil. Oil has made some big moves actually today, so pretty interesting stuff coming up next Wednesday.
It's down like 3.5% today, right?
It is.
Oil?
Yeah. It was a great time for me to take a triple leverage long. So
there you go. Yes, love it. By the way, guys, I'm wearing my my Bitcoin shirt today. Ooh. I had to be a little festive in this bear market vibe. So taking a page out of Mark Yusko's book and trying to rep some of the merch.
There we go. All right, Caleb. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Pleasure to see you guys. Take care.
Always love having Caleb on the show. You're gonna put that on your shirt. Go to TShroom real quick. He wants to mimic the we got one of our stickers didn't fit on the wall.
Oh, I like that Caleb Franzen guy.
Yeah, we do like that Caleb Franzen guy. I want to pick up kind of where we left off with him as we go into this about the future of Bitcoin and that concept of what he was talking about, the value versus the price. That's something I think a lot of people. I want to go into this with both you, TShroom, and you, Smay. I think there are a lot of people freaking out right now. There's a lot of people worrying about Bitcoin's price dropping, and it's making them question the entire value of Bitcoin altogether. And even if Bitcoin does drop to 11,000, 10,000, that has nothing to do with the long-term future of what Bitcoin is going to do. Yes, people will question it, but you always have to get yourself back into a place where you ask the question, did anything fundamentally change? Is Bitcoin something very different today than it was a year ago? Is it very different today fundamentally than it was back in November of 2021 when it was sitting at $69,000 a coin? The answer to that is no. If anything, if you were to compare today's date, this is September 7th of 2022 to Bitcoin of November of 2021, the argument could be made when we're just talking about what Bitcoin accomplishes, it has gotten stronger. The problem, however, is this. I was talking about this analogy in the planning meeting this morning. I'm a Virginia Tech fan, all right? So we're getting into the sports world, but stick with me on this. I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I love Virginia Tech. Smay is a West Virginia fan. He loves West Virginia. We play each other this year. After that game is over, there will be one winner and there will be one loser.
West Virginia.
Okay, we're not talking about fake information at this point. Let's just continue with the analogy. If Virginia Tech wins, guess who gets to talk and be loud? I do. I'm the winner. I get to be loud. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because we won this year that we'll beat them in any future games down the road. It just means we won this game. In the same boat, if West Virginia wins, Smay gets to be loud and I have to be quiet. In that same kind of thought, right now the Bears are winning. Bitcoin price, not value, Bitcoin price is down. So who gets to be really loud? The bears. There's not a whole lot for Bitcoin bulls to be raving about right now because the price is lower. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin is not a good project. It means that right now, because the price is down, the voices that are the loudest are the negative ones. And if you do nothing but listen to those voices and forget about the fundamentals that will build for the future and remember the trajectory and the history of what Bitcoin is doing and what it's seeking to solve, if you forget all those things and just listen to whoever's loudest in the room, you could become a weak hand. We talked about this before. The only reason why I'm still technically holding out hope for 17,500 as potentially being a double bottom is because that is the market that we dropped to, and we realized, all right, we have eliminated a lot of weak hands. There's just not a lot there right now. Now we're going to move back up to the upside. The only reason we will be dropping lower than 17.5 here in the next couple of months is if the bears do a good job of convincing people who were formerly diamond hands, strong hands, that Bitcoin is in trouble and it's going to go lower. What I think is going to happen in all reality is I think there's going to be this mass appeal, this massive loud voice from bears that screaming, we're going down to 10,000. Even I think you guys have seen in the news, we've seen an increasing amount of people talking about 5,000, 3,000. They're going to be screaming these numbers from the rooftops to shake as many people's confidence as possible. And then the institutions of the whales who actually understand the value of Bitcoin, who know it is not a dying project, who know that it is actually probably more valuable today than it was back in November, despite the fact that the price doesn't agree with that, they're going to gobble up those prices at very good levels. And maybe that level is 15,000. Maybe that level is 12,000. Maybe that level is 11 or 10,000. But what I can guarantee you and promise you right now is that nothing fundamentally has changed. And if you do nothing but listen to the loud voices in the room, which right now the winners of those voices are the bears, you could find yourself being swayed from a diamond hand holder to a glass holder, and you wait for those $10,000 price, that $6,000 price that never comes, and all of a sudden you missed your opportunity. You sold your Bitcoin, you looked for a lower level, and then the price takes off and you have to jump back in somewhere closer to 30,000, 40,000, and you missed out on a potential great buying opportunity. Not perfect, but great buying opportunity. I'm not saying that Bitcoin's price is not going to drop. I told you guys earlier in this video, I actually am looking right now at 18,000 and 17,500. I believe we will have some form of a double bottom. I think that bullish RSI divergence I've talked about will look a little bit stronger. I even think there's a very real possibility we end up going down and breaking those levels and potentially go down to 15,000. When I'm looking at the Dixie, when I'm looking at the stock market, when I'm looking at the pressure the Fed is giving, I do believe there are some painful days ahead. That does nothing to change my mind about the long-term structure and foundation of what Bitcoin is looking to solve. All I know right now is that Ethereum and Cardano, I love them too. They're just more fun to talk about. There's things that are happening right now that are very evident, and there aren't as many people screaming against them. But I'm not going to just listen to voices. I'm going to continue to dig in, do my own research, and understand value propositions and come to the realization whether I buy Bitcoin right now, sitting right at 19,000, give or take, or whether I go down and buy it at 15,000, I am getting a phenomenal value deal for what Bitcoin actually is. TShroom, what are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, so I wanna tell a story about the last 3 years and the federal funds rate, and this story is answering the question, why is Bitcoin so low? And it's also answering the question, why is the stock market so low? But some people are, this is going to be kind of a broken record. You already know this, but for some people, this is going to be kind of an eye-opening example, an eye-opening story. So if you go to my screen, Smay, so this is the story of the federal funds rate going back to, we don't need to go back that far, going back to about 2019, right? So this is where the federal funds rate is actually where it is right now. And it was just kind of hanging out there, going a little bit higher, but nobody was paying attention to the Fed and their rate decisions at this point. These were just, really big banks being affected by this, and nobody really cared. But all of a sudden you have the pandemic, and that was right here, and the Fed just totally cut these rates. They were like, we're going to zero, and they did. And so this federal fund rate went all the way down to zero, and it's come up, it's come down a little bit since then, but now you see this precipitous incline. And during this time here, there was a direct correlation to the stock market, and Bitcoin went up a lot because there was all this stability right here. It was very predictable right after a giant cut in what essentially turns out to be the cost of money, the cost of lending. So the Fed, in reacting to the pandemic, made the cost of money close to zero, right? Essentially zero. And now they've taken away that luxury and incrementally doing so. And so now in September, we're talking, when we talk about the CME futures, and why I talk about that every single day in the market pulse, that's important because they're looking to take this up again. And what you'll notice is this will actually be the first time that this federal funds rate goes above this plateau back here in 2019. So that's probably something that Jerome is actually considering pretty strongly. It may be one of the bigger arguments of why he might do 50 to slow the distance of which they're getting from those 19 levels. But aside from that, so that's the whole story, is why equities and why crypto is going down right now. It's not because Google is less profitable and people aren't buying ads as much. That was true during the pandemic, but that has turned around. Their revenues are good. And in the same sense, nothing has happened to Bitcoin. Right? There hasn't been some blanket ban in Canada, the US, or Mexico, or Europe. There hasn't been some giant ban or some kind of fundamental issue. There wasn't a lapse in the blockchain like there's lapses in Solana, right? There's no big change in Bitcoin. So it's exactly what Caleb is saying, and what Tim is also reiterating, is the value of these assets has not changed, but the price has changed. And what Yusko was saying was finance is the only industry where when things go on sale, people leave the store, right? So when the price of things get really low, all of a sudden people don't want to buy it, and it doesn't make any sense. If you're Walmart and they say, hey, everything in here is now $1, there would be riots. There would be people running in there, calling their aunt, their uncle, their mama, and their grandma, come in there and buy things up. But it's the opposite in the stock market. It's the opposite in crypto. Yeah. And so you just need to be cognizant of it. And that doesn't mean you go out and put your life savings in. You still be smart, right? And what Caleb was kind of lightly not even recommending, but saying what he's doing, he's still taking very small DCA positions on the way down, but being cognizant all the while that probably the big potential for generational income, generational value is actually going to be lower. That's what he's thinking. It's also what I'm thinking. So that's I think the full story, and hopefully that gives you some good fortitude to kind of get through what is probably going to be a little bit more of a crypto winter here, but it is starting to thaw out. That's for sure.
As we begin to transition here, we're going to go to chat here in just a second. I'm going to quickly do some TA. We didn't get to do too much alongside Caleb. I know he showed some stuff, but just in case anyone is just joining or was wondering, all right, hey, this is a great talk about what the future next couple of years will look like, and decades for Bitcoin. What about here over the next couple of days, maybe even hours? So go to my screen here real quick, Smay. I'm going to do some quick TA for you guys. Here's a problem that we got to address when we're looking at the VRVP on Bitcoin. We dropped below this stronger level that the volume had been setting for us, and right now, yes, we have a green candle on the 4-hourly chart, but it is coming right back up to that level. We got to see Bitcoin jump that level to regain some confidence. Like Caleb said earlier, and this is a very common expression you're going to hear a lot of technical analysts use, the trend is your friend until it ends. Guess what? The trend has not ended. We are setting lower highs. We are setting lower lows. We are seeing things like I discussed this, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, but when we go all the way down to the hourly chart, and by the way, we use the hourly chart when we're kind of looking at the next couple of hours, you could make one statement and say, well, Tim, didn't we go overextend on that RSI and drop well below the 30, and we're kind of bottomed and we're heading back up? Isn't that good? Well, it's good insofar as that, yes, we went low, and that's a sign that we should start cooling off. However, notice how aggressively the RSI is coming back up versus the price. It's not really that aggressive. That price is kind of being very stale. It's not moving very quickly. What this is setting up for us, and I'm promising you guys, we're going to see this start develop on lower charts, is we're going to start setting up some bearish RSI divergence where we're not getting back to peaks, but we're also outpacing them with RSI. So keep your eyes on what is happening with those charts. Other charts I'm keeping my eyes on for different reasons. Let's go out to the Dixie, for example. And I talked about this with Caleb as well, but I'm just going to reiterate in case you guys missed it. The Dixie's trend, again, if we're going to the trend is your friend until it ends. Guess what its trend is? It's still heading up. We had that bull flag prediction that is saying that we could climb all the way up to 112. We have the megaphone pattern, if I were to go out to the daily chart and show you guys, that is saying we could climb potentially the next little bit up to 113, 114. There is not showing any signs of really stopping out on the Dixie, and until we see something change that trend, we have to go ahead and assume that that trend is going to continue. The other one that I mentioned while Caleb was here, and I just want to make sure you guys are looking at, and this is what I'm very curious about in the future. So while I don't have an answer for you today, keep your eyes on what's happening here. That's the Bitcoin over USDT chart. So this is USDT Tether, not USD. So people, it looks like at this point, based off the volume on regular Bitcoin over USD not being very significant right now, it looks like the money that is getting pulled out right now is going into Tether, which is a good thing. The question is, what is it going to do long term? Is this coming out into Tether to wait for potentially a lower buying spot on Bitcoin? Maybe we come down around 75. Maybe we go down lower towards 15. Maybe we even, people are anticipating a $11,000 price. Are they waiting to get in a better buy spot, or potentially are they looking at the merge happening on Ethereum? Are they looking at Cardano? Are they looking at projects that have a lot of bullish things happening and are saying, I want to go invest in those? Really quickly, just taking a look at those charts. I discussed this earlier. I think I put a tweet out about it, but I'm going to let you guys see it. There's something drastically different. Oh, wrong thing. Let me go ahead and grab this. There's something drastically different about the Bitcoin charts versus the Ethereum and Cardano charts. So going to Bitcoin over USD, notice that we set a lower low. We did not stay above this blue line, this flat level support around 19,500. We set a brand new one. Versus Ethereum, for example, its low that it set back here a couple of days ago, around 1,421, we did not come down to that. In fact, we actually did. We came down and turned former resistance into support. So Ethereum is not setting lower lows. It actually is setting higher lows, which is a bullish trend. Same thing with Cardano, and I know the price did drop, but the exact same thing. Its bottom that it set here a couple of days ago was down at 42 cents, but instead it seemed to find a little bit of support closer to about 45 and a half, call it maybe 46. What is my point here? You're asking, Tim, what are you trying to say? We are seeing the three of these be going in different directions. Bitcoin is still downtrending. The sentiment about Bitcoin versus the dollar versus the Fed is negative. But Ethereum and Cardano are moving to the upside because of the fundamental updates that are coming within the next 2 weeks. And so my question, when I went back, and go off my screen now, Smay, my question when I go back and think about that USDT chart is we have a lot of volume moving into Tether, and that is money that usually goes back into crypto. The question is that crypto Bitcoin, or is that crypto potentially Ethereum and Cardano? And could we see those prices be inflated because of the excitement in this season? And then later down the road, when it's time to take some profit in Ethereum and Cardano, now the money will flow back into Bitcoin. We will keep you posting all of that, but I wanted to let you know that is what's happening on the charts, and you should be keeping your eyes on that as well. That being said, Smay, let's go ahead and transition. I'm not certain if we had any super chats. Did you see any that I wasn't aware of?
I saw none.
You saw no super chats. Well, we do have 930 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much. We only have 362 likes, though, so we can definitely get those likes higher. But TShroom, did you see anything in chat that we can respond to? Because this is our segment. We just want to kind of scale back, relax, take questions from you guys, maybe on stuff we talked about, maybe some new stuff. But for the next 5 to 10 minutes, we are yours. Ask questions away.
Yeah, I want to give you a chance to scan the chat. What I want to do is turn the table and actually ask the chat to drop a 1 in the chat if you thought that analogy or that comparison that Tim just made was useful and was interesting, because I've never thought about that in that way of looking at the volume of BTC to Tether versus BTC to USD. He brought that up to me this morning. I was really, really impressed, and I wonder if you are too, because that's such an interesting monthly indicator to see where money is flowing. So I want to know, just was that something you're interested in seeing more? And yeah, leave a 1 in chat. We'll see that, and we will be able to customize our content accordingly. But Tim, are you seeing anything in the chat that is poking out to you?
You know, I saw a couple of people commenting on helium, and I was going to go to my screen here real quick, Smay. If you guys were on CoinMarketCap this morning, within the last 24 hours, helium is the top gainer. It's gone up by almost 20%. And those of you who don't know much about helium, I don't know. Like, I'm not by any means a helium expert, but this was a coin that I looked at. There was a day last week where it was the biggest loser of the week, and I was like, I wonder if that'd be a solid project to go in and invest in. And again, because I don't know fundamentals, I said I'm not going to do it. Sure enough, it ended up rallying. I know that there was news that came out here recently that they are moving to Solana, and that actually started with and one day it dropped by 15%, but of course now in the last 24 hours, it has risen by almost 20%. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on helium. It does seem like a project that has a lot of volatility. So So especially any of those traders out there, you're probably gonna want to pay attention to helium because there are certain days where it is the biggest loser and other days it's the biggest gainer. That is a trader's favorite thing to look for in a project to be trading. So keep your eyes on what's happening with helium. You can go, yes, you're off my screen now already.
We have on the subject of helium, we have a very great video that TShroom wrote that goes into detail on the details of helium. So I think TShroom, eventually I think we'll find a link or something, but go type in, helium video from us. I don't know where to find it, but that's a really great video. So also, can I just note real quick, can we just get a one in chat? If you guys didn't have a reason to hit the like button before, I think I'm going to give you a new reason. Hasn't Tim been doing such a stinking good job with his analysis lately? I mean, good grief. He is like a powerhouse that cannot be stopped. So, Tim, if you hit the like button for Tim, because Tim is really working. He's busting his butt. I see it behind the scenes, guys, and you don't get to see it. This guy drinks, sleeps, eats, exists, osmosises, photosynthesizes cryptocurrency. So he really loves it and he's really into it. So he's doing that all for you. So hit the like button.
Yeah, I'm surprised he even has a butt left with how much he's busting his butt to get everything done.
That's right. Fun. That's what you want. I'm. Thank you so much for that shout out, guys. It is fun. I mean, I like it. I'm a guy who loves challenges. We talked about that a couple days ago. I love the challenge every single day. 2 years ago, I was not involved really much at all. I was invested 2 years ago in Bitcoin, but I was not daily invested. It was when I started working for this company that I was like, man, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna give it everything I got. And I've fallen in love with paying attention to charts and keeping everything up to date. By no means do I think I'm the most expert ever, but I do feel like I'm living proof that anybody who has desire to do this, to trade and to invest and to watch the charts, you can do it as long as you stay dedicated and you take your bumps and your bruises along the way. There was something in chat I wanted to answer here. Somebody asked, hey, is that added volume that we're seeing on USDT on Binance, is that because Binance has delisted the USDC? And that's a very good point. The only thing I would say about that, and let me go ahead and find it again because I want to show you guys what even the past looks like. Oh, I got to type it in correctly here. USDT. All right, so that is a very good point. Of course, now money's going to flow higher into USDT with it being the bigger of the stable coins compared to the past. Here's the only thing, though. That's going to equate for some of this, but when you go back and look at the history of USDT, we really aren't seeing a lot of times in any time in the past where this much volume came in space. Like, in fact, what I'm actually looking at right now is kind of showing this is the highest amount of volume we've ever seen. Some of that has to be because now Binance doesn't offer you to put it into USDC, but that doesn't change the fact that people want to move their money into stable coins rather than back into USD and take their profits and walk with it. They're saying, I'm staying around for crypto. This money is my crypto portfolio. I just think it's more valuable putting it into a stable coin right now than it is leaving it in any crypto. So the question, again, still remains. Yes, this partially is because USDC is not a thing on Binance, but the other part is there are people taking profits waiting for good buying opportunities. The only question is that better buying opportunity for them a Bitcoin purchase, or are they looking at other altcoins that are seeing some success right now? And again, the two that I do heavily believe, and you can't take into account small cap. There's going to be that small cap that just blows up by 100% and it's amazing. It's fun. You can't go off those. Those are the ones you don't know they actually did anything until after they've done it. We're talking about projects you actually could look at and fundamentally and look at the charts and you can decide and say, this is a coin that has a lot of potential to move to the upside. And the two for me that I'm looking at like that coming very soon within the next couple of days is Ethereum and Cardano. So it's speculation. I will admit that it is speculation, but I believe it has some merit to it and some educational thought put into it that would make a lot of sense. But we're going to have to watch that play out over the next 2 weeks before we can make a definitive statement on the matter.
Yeah.
We just had I just saw a new member, or not a new member, a comment from a member, Just Ray, who's been a member now for 12 months. So, wow, he's been here for a while. Said, good luck, guys. We all miss Jebb, but you're off to a great start. Send him my best. It takes strength to step back. Tim is rocking the TA, by the way. Thank you so much, Just Ray. That is very encouraging. And again, I want you guys to remember, as much as I'm now being the face of the channel, this channel has always been and will always be a we effort. I could not do this without TShroom sitting over here and Smay sitting over here and the rest of them. We have 10 staff members. Every single person that works for us is absolutely essential to doing the things that we need to do to bring you guys the best content daily. But also, it's all about we in the community. I couldn't do this without all of those green names, without those blue names, who every single day come and support and are growing, because this is a thing about we. We've said that over and over again, but I want you guys to really know the emphasis of this channel. You know, we were talking about our purpose the other day as a leadership team. And we do want to see people succeed. But you want to know what we really, really want to succeed at? And we're going to be moving a lot of effort and we're going to be spending money to make sure this gets done, is we want to build deep relationships that enrich lives and build a community-based educational content source. So whether it be here on YouTube or in Club DeFi, the purpose is to build relationships that enrich people. If you do this all alone and you're successful, first of all, that's a lot harder to do that alone than with a group. But secondly, you're still left being by yourself. When the number one issue in the world, I would actually say, is people's hurt relationships. One of the things that we're solving not only is crypto and helping you accomplish financial sovereignty, but building relationships that help you become a better person and help other people succeed as well. If that is something that you love and you want to be a part of, that's why we have the like button. That's why you can subscribe to this channel. You can purchase Club DeFi. You can become a member, and you are a part of that team that helps spread that type of thought and mission to everybody else in this world. That is what we are all about. I do think, though, you know, unless there's something that I'm missing, Smay, that's probably going to wrap up today's stream. I think you guys have noticed that these shows have gone a little longer. That's going to become a normal thing. I think we're actually going to be spreading the show out because we want to offer as much value and community as possible. I saw questions about community streams. And what I'm going to do is, we were talking about that right before stream. We're going to have a community stream next week, but you got to come back tomorrow when we tell you which day it is. We have not fully decided, so make sure you don't miss tomorrow's show. You're not going to want to. Harry is going to be on the show. Cannot wait to have Harry, the crypto vet, come and join us and get his take on the market. But with that being said, and that's what I heard earlier in chat, this is the That Being Said channel. Yeah, that's what it is. That being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.